FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome, and you are listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's 10/22/18. Well, we see gold starting to firm up. We see the stock market perhaps topping, getting ready to take a fall. Well, nobody knows for sure, even the person you're about to hear from. As always, be a part of the show and write us, kl@kerrylutz.com. If you're a troll, we want you to write us even more. And with us now is our good friend, Ned Schmidt. And you find Ned on several locales on the internet, the Value View Gold Report and the Agri-Food Value View. I actually memorized that for the first time, Ned.
You're doing better.
Welcome back.
Even you can be trained, Gary.
I have an ex-wife that would disagree with you vehemently on that score, but perhaps you're right. Perhaps even I am trainable. So welcome back.
It's good to talk to you, Terry. And what we need to advise all our listeners is that each of you owe the U.S. government $3,000 now. Mm-hmm. So you need to send your check in to Secretary Mnuchin this week, because the U.S. government, their stated deficit for fiscal 2019, and the U.S. government's fiscal year starts 1 October and September 30th. Mm-hmm. They're saying that deficit is going to be $1 trillion. Now, the U.S. government uses some creative accounting called the Unified Budget Deficit, which it says that historically the Social Security system was in surplus, so we just add the surplus to the negative and lie to the taxpayers. Well, actual deficit the last 12 months was $1.2 trillion. So we're actually looking at least for the next 12 months, the U.S. government having to issue something like $1.3 trillion in bonds. Now, that one of their problems is that the Federal Social Security Administration in the June quarter, their revenues turn negative on a year-to-year basis. And so we're looking at the federal government wanting over $1 trillion. Now, we go to the Federal Reserve, which has now liquidated something like $270 billion in bonds. They're going to do that at least that much in the coming year. So we're looking at, in rough numbers, $1.5 trillion between the federal government itself and the Federal Reserve bond liquidations. That $1.5 trillion is going to come out of the United States financial system. Because I'm assuming China is not buying our bonds anymore. I think that's
You think?
I think that'd be a fair assumption.
You think, huh? Probably.
So we're back, Terry, to a topic we haven't talked about, 20 years, crowding out?
Yeah.
And actually, the federal government is going to crowd out demands for money. And the most liquid of that is the stock market. So we're looking, the collapse of the U.S. stock market in this past month is not a mystery. I mean, the federal government's going to take $1.5 trillion out of the financial system. And what that means is the federal government, especially the Federal Reserve, is no longer financing U.S. stock market. I mean, the days of the Greenspan-Bernanke puts is gone. And if you read the minutes of the Federal Reserve, they have gone back to the 2 primary assignments for the Federal Reserve. The marching orders for the Federal Reserve were written in the Employment Act of 1946. Now, it's been amended a few times. But basically, the Federal Reserve legally has only 2 assignments: stable inflation and high employment. Nowhere in their legal mandate is the U.S. stock market a consideration.
Mm-hmm.
And it has not been through most of Chairman Yellen's tenure, and it certainly is not in Chairman Powell's interest. I mean, it's not where his attention focuses. This man is not a trained economist, which makes him probably eminently qualified to run the Fed.
Certainly more qualified than the rest of the losers who've been running it all these years, right?
God forbid we have another economist in charge of the Federal Reserve. They just screw things up. So basically, there's really only 4 asset classes that mean anything. Stocks, bonds, certificates of deposit, and precious metals.
Right.
And the only one that, I mean, bonds are dead money. You know you're going to lose money in bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Stocks need that Federal Reserve. And so that's the reason the stock market is broken. It really only leaves gold and CDs,
right,
or precious metals and CDs. Now, gold bottomed on the 16th of August.
Correct.
So that we're well past that. And it's interesting to note that since then, it's had a regular pattern up. So basically, anything in your chart before the first day of August is irrelevant. And if I see one thing I worry about when people look at the gold market, is they're looking at too long a chart. The world of finance restarted itself with the end of the U.S. bull market in stocks and the bottoming of at about 1160 for gold. So gold is going to garner attention because its relative return has improved. In other words, for the last month, the S&P 500 in rough numbers is off 5%.
Right.
And gold is up 2%. Now, most of the money on the street is managed by computers. They really don't allow humans to touch your money much anymore.
Far too important. Far too important to allow humans to get in the mix, right? That could be really dangerous.
So what the computers are starting to pick up is that the relative return of gold is better than the return on the U.S. stock market. And so gold is going to garner attention. And we've got enough things going on internationally, like we talked a minute ago. The Chinese government is probably not buying treasury bonds. I would imagine they probably are more interested in gold. We know the Russians are. The Iranians are. Wherever you go, people are more interested in gold than treasury bonds. And so we got above this magic number that everybody was looking at 12 and a quarter. We got actually to an intraday high not too many days ago of 1233. So we basically 1225 is history. Quit worrying about it. And the next target on it is the 200-day moving average, which is at 1270. Now, what makes it especially interesting is what's going on in the silver market. Silver has found a hard bottom at $14. It's actually shown itself that it has no interest in going below $14. So the question is, when does it go above 15?
Right.
But what I found interesting is that silver, roughly 3 weeks ago, got overbought. I didn't even go back in my spreadsheet to look the last time silver was overbought. And that was a turn in the attitudes where people were starting to buy. We haven't been overbought in gold for months.
Right.
And so these markets are showing that they're buying in there now, especially in silver. And so silver, we've got to hit above $15 once. And we got the $14.93 last week. I don't think there's any chance, barring the second coming, for silver to go below $14. And it's just a question of when it goes above 15.
Yeah.
I mean, silver is going to outperform Bitcoins this year.
You think so, huh?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Egypt is on the verge, once again, becoming a world-renowned gold producer. The Golden Age is being rediscovered. For millennia, ancient Egyptian kingdoms prospered from unparalleled riches. Pharaohs built their empires and flaunted their abundant wealth that was made possible by the country's resource-rich gold deposits. Despite this rich history, modern Egypt remains one of the most underdeveloped gold mining countries in the world. Aton Resources is at the center of the modern Egyptian mining world, diligently working both as the only public exploration company in Egypt today and as the advocate for mining reform with the Egyptian government. However, those that arrive early like Aton will reap the best rewards. Aton's discovery of the legendary Lost Mountain of Gold at Radruin and its current aggressive drilling program there could potentially reap those rewards. Aton Resources is focused on its 100% owned Abu Marawat concession in the Arabian-Nubian Shield, located 200 kilometers north of Centamin Sakari's world-class gold mine. Aton possesses first-mover advantage in the underfollowed jurisdiction of Egypt, which is currently undergoing mining reform. To stay on top of Aton's latest drill results and news, go to atonresources.com. Aton trades on the TSX-V under the ticker AAN and on the OTC under the ticker ANLBF.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Yeah, well, Bitcoin, I am about to write a paper on Bitcoin Net explaining that cryptocurrency days are numbered, at least in their current form, until they work out a major security flaw in the whole concept. It is possible right now for governments to shut down cryptos, every single one, whether it's Litecoin or Shitecoin or whatever it is. They can stop every single one today, right this moment, dead in their tracks, and there's nothing that anybody can do to stop it.
No, and there was I saved the article from this weekend. I don't know who wrote it, to be honest with you. But it summarized all the thefts of cryptocurrencies.
Mm-hmm.
And it was monumental. And you don't even read. I think they said there was $800 million stolen this year.
Hey, Bonnie and Clyde were in the wrong business. Instead of Tommy guns, hey, if they were around today, they'd be working with major supercomputers and hacking and spear phishing and all that. They wouldn't be knocking over banks, right?
No, it's easier to steal money from a cryptocurrency than it is to rob a bank.
That's for sure. And a lot less dangerous, especially the risk of lead poisoning, right?
Right. But it said, the other thing that was interesting in this article, Terry, is people don't report the losses anymore.
No, it's all hidden because it's bad PR, and it shows that maybe you can't crack it because it's cryptography and it's virtually impossible. Maybe you can with a quantum computer. I don't know the answer to that. Don't even pretend to. But what I can tell you is that the things are vulnerable in numerous places. They're on the internet. They're open sourced, and they can be brought down so quickly you won't even believe it. That we won't even remember that there were cryptocurrencies. I think this is got some just huge vulnerabilities that are going to totally bring it down,
Right. And what are those people stealing the cryptocurrencies have a problem. You can't go sloshing around putting $100 million in your bank account.
It might get noticed,
in Germany.
I think it might.
They'll find you.
Even in China.
They're probably buying gold and hiding it in China or Bangladesh, when the head of the Interpol
disappears.
Chinese head of the Interpol was arrested for being a crook. Who's ever going to find you?
It's not real confidence inspiring, is it?
No. But Terry, one of the things that reaffirms my interest in this low on gold is that we also put a low in the stocks on the 11th of September.
That's very true.
The GDX bottomed, and it's moved up from that low. The same thing has happened to the GDXJ.
Correct.
Those stocks, remember, gold stocks are bought by two groups, one of which is people that think about gold and want to leverage. The other group is probably bigger. It's people managing money that cannot buy gold by the legality of the money they're managing. In other words, if you manage an equity mutual fund, you can't buy gold, but you can buy gold stocks.
Yes.
So that is the group that I think is starting to come into this a little bit.
Could be.
But I still agree. And the negative, we haven't gone to an optimistic world yet. Pessimism still dominates. They still think that Apple, the third-rate telephone company, is better. But we've got both of them. The first target on the GDX was $20, and we essentially got there. And so the next one is essentially the moving average, which is $12.70.
Really?
On the GDXJ, we touched $30, which was the first target, and the 200-day moving average is just below $32. So the picture is looking good for the two indices, the two ETFs, but we're also seeing good days in the individual stocks. When we see the individual stocks moving, that means some hot money is moving into some of these stocks.
Yes, for sure.
So you can babble all you want about the U.S. stock market, but traders aren't making any money except on the short side in the U.S. stock market.
Very true.
I think gold and CDs are the best two choices for the next 12 months, and it's increasingly looking like that. And people, be careful. Don't use a chart so long that you're using trends that don't have any meaning anymore.
Yeah.
People are doing that, and it always bothers me. Picking the right time frame for a chart is the most important decision you make because it's going to guide you in your thinking. And as far as I'm concerned, the world restarted, went back to go on the first day of August. And so I don't see how you can look at gold and silver and not come away with a positive view.
Yeah. Well, certainly the debt keeps going up and up, and economic policies, geopolitical turmoil, all those things seem to play into its hand. And yet, even today, it's down $6 the ounce. But hey, it's Monday. It's still early. Who knows? Hey, let's get into the ag stocks and ag commodities. What are you seeing there?
It's been amazing, Kerry. Markets are so much more efficient than we give them credit. China imposed these tariffs on U.S. agriculture commodities, which sent them all into the basement. But it always happens that traders overdo it. They do it on the upside, and they overdo it on the downside. And for the last month or so, the ag commodities have done far better than the stock market. Last 4 weeks, the NASDAQ is off 6-7, and the ag prices are up almost 2%. And we're seeing bottoms put in place in corn and soybeans, two that we worry about the most. In August, I wrote up the problem with the numbers. What China said and what the traders were all screaming, China is never going to buy U.S. beans again. They're just going to buy beans from Brazil. The numbers didn't work out.
A little
China
problem.
cannot. Yeah. Brazil just doesn't produce enough beans.
Very true.
Everybody from that point on really realized that China had to. Well, last week, we had the first 2 shiploads of U.S. soybeans, to dock in China because the beans are so hard to buy and so overpriced in Brazil. It's now cheaper for China to pay the tariff and import U.S. soybeans. So we're seeing bottoms put in place on these prices. And I think it improves the situation. Our prices still aren't high enough for what farmers need, but the situation looks much improved. And no reason why it should not go into next year. And hopefully, President Xi and President Trump will actually have a conversation. The G20 meets, I think, in Argentina next month.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a scheduled, they're working on a conversation. And the reality is China needs the food.
Correct.
Whether they be stubborn or not. And
they kind of shot themselves in the foot, didn't they?
Yes. When you're a hole, quit digging. That's what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
And
correct.
The nationalism in China just got carried away, and they were listening to too many hardliners. Now, the stocks have been doing well, Kerry, for stocks.
Yeah.
Most of my stocks are American stocks, but about 60% of them have been performing better than the market.
Yeah.
And there's probably still some opportunity. I'm not going to assume a bear market right away.
Mm-hmm.
Archer Daniels Midland is one the industry likes, investors like. It has recast itself into a global player.
Correct. Can you ever lose money on ADM if you buy it at a decent price?
Well, if you buy at a decent price, no, you'll never lose money. The question is, what is a decent price?
Well, you're the expert. So what's it trading at now, and what should it trade at for you to get into if you're not in it already?
Yeah, I think you can buy ADM here. If you need a stock in your portfolio, ADM. And BG, which is Bunge, has been popular because it's got a tie-in to Brazil. That's where its historical strength was.
Correct.
Except they never seem to be able to execute.
It's Brazil, it's a third world country. You got to get used to it. But one day they might very well. Hey, going back to ADM, it's yielding 2.7% dividend as well. So you kind of get paid to wait for ADM.
That's correct. Now, two of them I like, Terry, but I would hold off buying. One is Agco, which is the other tractor company.
Yeah.
It is, I'm not sure why it's weak, but I would wait till about $50 to get interested in that.
Right.
I actually prefer it to Deere because Agco has a global footprint where Deere still gets too much money from North America. The other one that's developing an interest is DWDP, which is the merger of Dow and DuPont Chemical.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that stock has been weak because the Wall Street analysts are worried about global commodity prices. If China slows down, all commodity prices are going to go down.
Right.
And the old Dow Chemical has a lot of commodity chemical businesses. So that's hurt the stock. The second thing, last week, they went into the ag subsidiary. Now, they're going to spin off the ag company in, it looks like now, June of next year, perhaps as long. But what they did is they went into the ag company and wrote off everything that they could write off.
Everything but the kitchen sink.
Everything but the kitchen sink. Now, the street took that as bad news. But as an investor, you got to say that's good news because that gets rid of crap off the balance sheet.
And even
we're not
stuff, even stuff that isn't. So they write down everything. So then when they do come back, they come back so strongly, and the street doesn't remember that the reason why is because they wrote off everything, and these are just pure profits now. But the reason why is because of that mass write-off. Yes.
Now, FMC is going to be of interest after they get rid of the lithium subsidiary. They did an IPO on their lithium subsidiary of 20%, and it was not as hot as people expected. There's still a lot of lithium bulls around. And so once it gets rid of that lithium stock, it's going to spin it off to the shareholders. Then it's probably of interest. Now, for those of you with a little more, want more zest in your life, we're getting ready for a presidential election next Sunday. I think it's next Sunday in Brazil. And the tropical Trump is expected to win.
Yeah.
Now, I think he got 46% of the vote in the first round of voting, which was way above, almost twice what the polls were saying. That sent the Brazilian real up and all Brazilian stocks up. And so I expect that to happen again if he wins the next election.
Yeah.
And there's two of them to be of interest there. BRFS, which is the largest chicken exporter in the world. And then there's JBSAY, which is the largest beef exporter. The problem with that one might be it's got too much business in the United States. 75% of that company is based in the United States, even though it's a Brazilian company.
Right.
Now, for the real thrill seeker, Terry, after you've bought your gold and silver, is Aquabonnie, which is AQB, which is producing, or trying to produce and sell, a genetically modified salmon. Well, it looks like it's closer. The stock is acting like it's closer. If you got some guts, that's one to maybe take some, instead of going to Las Vegas.
People hate GMO everything, though. They're going to buy GMO salmon, and the farm-raised salmon really is inferior to the wild salmon, you know? Yeah,
the technology is getting ready to gear up big in the ag sector. And we've got two basic problems, Barry. One is weeds, and the fact that our herbicides are losing effectiveness, and with Monsanto losing the big Roundup case in California. I think there's going to be a pressure. These lawsuits are going to keep coming, and I think that there's a problem there. So we're looking at issues with weeds. How do we get rid of weeds without using a herbicide? The other one is waste. There are two kinds of waste that comes off a farm. One is nitrogen that runs off in the rain, part of which is caused by the fertilizer we put down. And that may have contributed. Those of you in Florida have probably read about the algae. The problem with algae in the Gulf, and it's coming around. That's part of that problem. The other part is animal waste. And I've only found one company, don't have any revenues, but it's one people ought to be looking at. It's called Bion Environmental, which is developing ways to treat animal wastewater to take the animal waste out of it, so it's not a problem. And the symbol on that carry is BNET.
That sounds really cool.
It looks interesting. They don't have any revenues yet, but sometimes you got to have some guts.
It's a lottery ticket, potential lottery ticket.
It's a lottery. If it's, this is the kind of company, if the product, their technology does work as they claim it does, will eventually get bought by somebody.
That's a big if, but yeah, it's a big if, right?
So everything I look at here, Terry, is looking good right now.
That's
interesting. And it sure looks better than the U.S. stock market.
Yeah, well, it's been looking toppy for a while, but you know what they say, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent, right?
That's right. So, in short, the house has more money than you do.
Yeah. Just because you get on a lucky streak doesn't mean anything. Then, because the house will eventually take it back. So you always got to be thinking of that.
They always took mine. So
same here.
But you always get free drinks, so that
makes it worthwhile. And if you're really a big loser, you get a free hotel room, maybe shows, meals, all that great stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't know what all you get, but I don't think we ought to talk about it.
Well, we won't. We won't get into
You keep reminding me this is a family show, Gary.
It's a family show. Just keep in mind that the casino is home to all vices, and then let your imagination run, because that's the way it works there. Anyway, check out Ned's work over at the Value View Gold Report and the Agri-Food Value View. Links to it in the show notes, as always. Anyway, Ned, so we will touch base with you next month, and let's see what direction, if any, gold has changed, and silver, if we're really at it. Hey, anyways, like I said, email us, kl@kerrylutz.com, Twitter feed @KerryLutz, Facebook page, Financial Survival Network, and make sure you subscribe at financialsurvivalnetwork.com for our newsletter. Got one coming out imminently, like 24 hours or less. Ned, we'll talk to you again real soon. Be well, my friend.
All right, take care, Kerry.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.